Hello, welcome to another Becoming a Modern Man. This time we are running a Zoo Collected Company deck, and our opponent is playing a blue-green Infect deck. So let's get underway, shall we? So this is our opener. We've got a Wild Nicottle, a Quizoli Pride Mage, and a Knight of the Reliquary, as well as all the lands required to play those spells. So looks fairly decent. Also a couple of fetches, so this Knight's probably going to be a 4/4 if we manage to play it on turn 3. So looking pretty nice. That leads off with a breeding pool into a noble hierarch, which is fine. This was a placeholder card that I was using in place of I think one of the noble hierarchs. I only own 3 hierarchs. I've since sold them, given that they're coming out in the new Modern Masters set. It's been confirmed. So yeah, I didn't want to buy a 4th one before the month was out, obviously. So this is just a bit of a placeholder, but potentially a decent card in the deck. So just going to run out the Nicottle. Could have run out the experiment one instead, I suppose, as we can grow it, but this way we deal more damage more quickly. One plays Blighted Agent, so definitely on Infect. At this point, we are going to crack this Windswept Heath, get Temple Garden, run out of the Pride Mage, and just get in for 4. Actually, we don't have Path or Bolt or anything to answer his Blighted Agent, so we've kind of just got to hope his hand isn't too ridiculous. There's the Gataxian Probe. There's a Breeding Pool, Might Evolve Corrosa, Mutagenic Growth, and Become Immense. And yeah, that wraps it up. I think that's a 10-3 kill for our opponent, which is definitely very nice for him. Fortunately, we just didn't have any answers in our hand to the Blighted Agent, so there wasn't a whole lot we could do there, and the opponent had a pretty nutty draw, so that didn't work out so great for us. So on to game 2, see if this works out a little better for us. This is a pretty nice hand to have against Infect. Double Path, definitely something we want to see. It would be nice if we had some cheap creatures as well to apply early pressure, but certainly don't want to mulligan. This Double Path is very nice against the Infect. That leads off with a Windswept Heath. This passes a turn. I'm going to fetch up a Temple Ground and pass as well. He searches up some islands because we've got this Choke in hand, which could be fairly backbreaking. There's a Hierarch, which makes the Choke slightly less good, but still decent. I think I'll just go for the Choke here. I mean, fetch up another Breeding Pool, but I think might as well just get it down here and now. Potentially could have held it though. He plays a basic forest, fetch up another basic forest. He plays Wild Defiance with the help of the Hierarch. That's quite an annoying card, but fortunately we've got Paths here. If we had Bolts, that would be more annoying. Basically turns off Bolt and makes Bolt into a pump spell for the opposing creature. So yeah, Wild Defiance, quite an interesting one. I haven't actually played an Infect deck with it in, but it certainly seems very good if you can get it. It's just a little bit on the slow side, I guess. So given that he's not actually got any real pressure going on at the moment, like he's not got an Inkmoth Nexus, he hasn't got Blighted Agent, so he's not going to be attacking us and killing us next turn unless something particularly crazy happens. So might as well just drop as much power onto the board as possible. So we're going to drop the Knight and the Nicottle, which is 7 points worth of power, which is nice, and the Glistener Elf. So that's a couple of targets for us, but we've got double path, so provided he doesn't have a Vines of Wastwood or something, should be okay. I suppose we are hoping against hope there potentially, but there's not much else we can do other than have these removal spells up and hope that he can't do too much. Just going to attack for 4, leave in the cut, as we still have it as a potential blocker against his Glistener, which is it's important. We don't, if we can block it, we certainly want to and save ourselves that damage. One for the Distortion Strike, which is pretty good in combination with Wild Defiance. It's going to get a +3/+3 bonus, and he's going to target his Blighted Agent. Make it a 5-4. Might as well Corrosa, makes it a 12-11. And he gets his Exalted trigger. So we go for the path. And fortunately, doesn't have any answer to that. Also might be out of basic lands as didn't search anything up there, which is interesting. Draw Bolt, which is fairly useless as I say. Wild Defiance is a perfect counter for it. We're just going to tap for 7, hopefully half our opponent's life total. And drop a Smiter as a blocker, although we know he's going to get off his Distortion Trike this turn. On me. So he's got a 5-4 Glistener Elf, which he's going to attack with. 6-5 with Exalted. I'm fine with that. I'm obviously just going to pass. If he hits me for 6 Infect, I'm fine with that. So it's him who's forced to do something. And he has a Become Immense by the looks of it. Fortunately, he has Path, and fingers crossed. Yep, no Vines of Vastwood or Apostle's Blessing or anything. So basically, just pick up the win here. Block Mutagenic Growth to kill off the Knight, but it doesn't make any difference because we've still got 7 damage coming through. So that's fine. We managed to push through and pick up the win on that one. We're still fairly close. If he had that Vines of Vastwood or an Apostle's Blessing to just protect against Path, then he would have won, but as it turned out, came out in our favour that time. So let's go again. This is a decent hand. We've got Nakatl via Poly Pressure. We've got the Path to deal with his Infect creatures, which is always good. And then just a bunch more aggressive creatures. So that all seems pretty good. Happy to keep that. Put these off the breeding pool. I'll place Pendlehaven and the Gitaxian Probe. But no. I'm going to crack my Mesa. A Temple Garden, make my Nakatl 3-3. Play Pride Mage so we can tap for 4 this turn. So put it down to 14. And plays another breeding pool. Again, no plays. Attack for 5, put the opponent down. And play out the Smiter. Apply as much pressure as possible. And that's actually lethal on board. And Puncher's Can just concedes. Looks like he didn't have an Infect creature, or he's kind of banking on that Gitaxian Probe and some other things to help him find something. But doesn't look like he got there, and we managed him to wrap that one up. Infect in general seems like a fairly difficult matchup. You definitely want your paths and things. Our sideboard's not particularly catered to dealing with that matchup either. Might want to bring in some sort of... You might want to put in Spell Kites or something, I would imagine. Be a good way to handle that situation. Which is another card that's been reprinted in Modern Masters 2015, so pick those up hopefully for reasonably cheap fairly shortly. But yeah, currently I don't particularly like our Infect matchup. We did manage to win through here, but got a little bit lucky, I think. So yeah, obviously you can be aggressive. You need to just push them as hard as possible, and then ideally have maybe some hit cards in the sideboard, which aren't currently in our sideboard. But Infect isn't as popular as it was, so it obviously depends on how often you expect to run into it. But obviously a winnable match, as we've managed to show here.